The arrival. The massive ring of Nexus Station hung in the inky void of space, a shimmering hoop of metal and light against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the U.S. horizon, her dark eyes fixed on the alien construct as it grew larger in their approach. The rest of her crew bustled about the bridge, a mix of excitement and apprehension in their voices as they prepared for their first contact with the multi-species coalition that called Nexus home. Comms are open. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. We're receiving docking instructions now. Sarah nodded, her short black hair catching the soft blue glow of the ship's instruments. Take us in nice and easy, Ensign Park. Let's not give our new neighbors any reason to worry. As the horizon glided towards its assigned berth, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the sheer scale of Nexus Station. It dwarfed anything humanity had built in space, a testament to the combined technological prowess of a dozen alien races. The station's outer ring was studded with docking bays, each large enough to accommodate vessels far larger than the horizon. Spokes ran inward from the ring, connecting to a central hub that glowed with an otherworldly light. Docking complete, Captain, Ensign Park announced, her fingers dancing across the helm controls. We're locked in and pressurized. Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. All right, people, this is what we've trained for. Remember, we're not just representing ourselves or even the horizon. We're the face of humanity out here. Let's make a good first impression. As Sarah led her senior staff towards the airlock, she caught sight of her reflection in a polished bulkhead. The crisp lines of her navy blue uniform stood in stark contrast to the worn grip of the antique revolver holstered at her hip. It was an anachronism, a relic of Earth's past that had been in her family for generations. But it was also a reminder of where they came from and the ingenuity that had brought humanity to the stars. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing the cavernous docking bay, teeming with alien life. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved about their business, some hurrying past with purpose, while others lounged against cargo containers, eyeing the new arrivals with curiosity or suspicion. Sarah stepped out onto the deck of Nexus Station, her boots ringing against the metal grating. The air was thick with unfamiliar scents, spices, machinery oil, and something distinctly alien that she couldn't quite place. As her crew fanned out behind her, she noticed a delegation approaching. At the head of the group was a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin and 4 arms. Its head was adorned with delicate fronds that swayed gently as it moved. Flanking it were 2 hulking creatures that looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a bear, their thick hides covered in intricate patterns that might have been natural or artificial. Sarah couldn't tell. The willowy being stopped a few paces away, its large, multifaceted eyes blinking in a rhythm that seemed almost musical. When it spoke, its voice was a harmonious blend of tones that Sarah's universal translator struggled to render into English. "Welcome to Nexus Station, humans of Earth," the being said, its fronds rippling in what Sarah hoped was a gesture of greeting. "I am Zaffel, chief administrator of this hub. We have long anticipated your arrival." Sarah stepped forward, offering a respectful nod. "Thank you for your welcome, Administrator Zaffel. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the U.S. Horizon. We're honored to be here and look forward to peaceful exchange and cooperation with all the species of Nexus." Zaffel's fronds shimmered, and Sarah's translator interpreted it as a sign of approval. "Your words are appreciated, Captain Chen. However, I must warn you that not all on Nexus share my enthusiasm for new arrivals. There are those who view humans with skepticism." As if on cue, a commotion erupted near one of the cargo bays. Sarah turned to see a group of burly, reptilian aliens confronting Ensign Park and Lieutenant Rodriguez. The largest of the aliens, its scales a mottled green and brown, was gesturing aggressively at Rodriguez's sidearm. "Primate scum," the alien snarled, its forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "You dare bring your primitive weapons onto our station?" Rodriguez's hand instinctively moved towards his phaser, but Sarah's sharp command froze him in place. "Stand down, Lieutenant." She strode towards the confrontation, her face a mask of calm determination. The reptilian alien towered over her, easily twice her mass, but Sarah didn't flinch as she met its yellow-eyed glare. As the armored alien approached, Sarah felt the tension in the room ratchet up several notches. She knew that the next few moments would be crucial in determining humanity's future on Nexus Station, and perhaps in the galaxy at large. The challenge. The armored alien stomped to the center of the chamber, its heavy footfalls echoing ominously. It stood easily 8 feet tall, dwarfing Sarah and most of the other beings present. "I am Drakthor, warlord of the Krell Dominion," the being announced, its voice booming through the hall. "And I challenge you, human, to prove your worth." Sarah stood her ground, looking up at the towering alien. "What exactly did you have in mind, Warlord Drakthor?" A low chuckle emanated from behind the mask, a test of skill and technology. "Your primitive weapon against my phase disruptor. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to withdraw and admit your inferiority." Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. Sarah could feel the eyes of her crew on her, silently urging caution. But she also knew that backing down now would confirm every negative assumption about humanity's place in the galactic community. "I accept your challenge," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Name the terms." Drakthor's mask tilted slightly, as if surprised by her acceptance. "Simple. We will face off in the station's combat arena. First to incapacitate their opponent wins. If you emerge victorious, the Krell Dominion will support humanity's inclusion in the Nexus Coalition. If you fail," the alien paused for effect, "you and your crew will leave this station and never return." Sarah nodded grimly. "Agreed. When and where?" "One standard rotation." Drakthor replied. "That should give you time to make peace with your primitive gods." As the alien warlord strode away, the chamber erupted into a cacophony of excited chatter. Zaffel hurried over to Sarah, its fronds quivering with agitation. "Captain Chen, I must advise against this," the administrator said. "Drakthor is a renowned warrior with technology far beyond your own. This challenge is tantamount to suicide." Sarah managed a wry smile. "Maybe so, Administrator, but sometimes you have to play the hand you're dealt. We didn't come all this way to back down at the first sign of trouble." As she and her crew were escorted to their temporary quarters, Sarah could feel the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The fate of humanity's future in space now rested on her ability to outmaneuver an alien warlord with superior technology. She spent the next several hours inspecting and cleaning her revolver, each motion a meditation on the task ahead. The combat arena was a vast, circular space with tiered seating surrounding a central platform. As Sarah stepped onto the battlefield, she was acutely aware of the thousands of alien eyes watching her every move. Drakthor stood at the opposite end, his armor gleaming under the harsh lights. "Last chance to forfeit, human," the warlord called out, raising his phase disruptor. The weapon hummed with barely contained energy. Sarah drew her revolver, its familiar weight comforting in her hand. "Not a chance, Drakthor. Let's dance." A piercing tone signaled the start of the duel. Drakthor wasted no time, firing a barrage of energy bolts that sizzled through the air towards Sarah. She dove and rolled, the acrid smell of ozone filling her nostrils as the bolts missed her by inches. Taking cover behind a low barrier, Sarah took a moment to assess her options. Her revolver, while powerful, had limited range compared to Drakthor's weapon. She'd need to get closer to have any chance of penetrating his armor. The next few minutes were a blur of motion as Sarah darted from cover to cover, narrowly avoiding Drakthor's relentless assault. The alien crowd roared with each near miss, their initial skepticism giving way to grudging admiration for the human's agility and determination. Finally, Sarah saw her opening. As Drakthor paused to vent his overheating weapon, she sprinted towards him, closing the distance in seconds. The warlord, caught off guard by her sudden charge, swung his disruptor like a club. Sarah ducked under the wild swing and brought her revolver up, pressing it against a gap in Drakthor's armor just under his arm. She squeezed the trigger twice in rapid succession. The sound of the shots was deafening in the enclosed space. Drakthor staggered back, his armor sparking where the bullets had found their mark. For a moment, the arena fell silent, all eyes fixed on the two combatants. Then, with a groan that seemed to shake the entire station, Drakthor collapsed to his knees. His phase disruptor clattered to the ground as he clutched at the damaged section of his armor. "Impossible," the warlord gasped, his voice filled with pain and disbelief. Sarah kept her revolver trained on him, her breath coming in short gasps. "Do you yield?" For a long moment, Drakthor remained motionless. Then, slowly, he reached up and removed his helmet. The face beneath was a mass of scales and bony ridges, reptilian eyes blinking in the bright light. "I yield," he growled. "You have bested me, human, with a weapon I dismissed as archaic and useless." He shook his massive head. Perhaps we have underestimated your kind." As the reality of what had just happened sank in, the arena erupted into chaos. Aliens of all species surged forward, some cheering, others demanding explanations. Sarah found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity, her crew pushing through the crowd to reach her. In that moment, as she stood victorious in the heart of Nexus Station, Sarah knew that everything had changed. Humanity had taken its first, decisive step onto the galactic stage. Part 3. The Revelation. News of Sarah's victory over Drakthor spread through Nexus Station like wildfire. Aliens who had previously sneered at the humans now regarded them with a mixture of curiosity and wary respect. The crew of the Horizon found themselves inundated with requests for interviews, demonstrations, and technical specifications of their primitive weaponry. Sarah, for her part, tried to downplay the significance of her win. It wasn't about proving superiority, she explained to a group of wide-eyed alien journalists. It was about showing that different approaches can be equally valid. Sometimes, simpler solutions can be the most effective. But even as she spoke, Sarah could see the ripple effects of the duel spreading beyond Nexus. Representatives from various alien factions were huddled in corners, speaking in hushed tones. The political landscape was shifting, and humanity was suddenly a wild card in a game they barely understood. Zathel approached Sarah as she was leaving the press conference, its front shimmering with an emotion she couldn't quite interpret. "Captain Chen, your victory has complicated matters," the administrator said. "There are those who now view humanity as a potential threat, rather than an amusing curiosity." Sarah frowned. "That wasn't our intention. We came here in peace, remember. Intent and perception are often at odds in galactic politics," Zathel replied. "Come. There's something you need to see." The administrator led Sarah deep into the bowels of the station, past security checkpoints, and through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber filled with swirling holographic displays. "This is the Nexus Archive," Zathel explained. "It contains the collected knowledge and histories of all member species." The alien gestured, and the holograms coalesced into a series of images that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. They showed humans, or beings that looked remarkably like humans, engaged in epic space battles, exploring distant worlds, and wielding technologies far beyond anything Earth had achieved. What is this?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zathel's fronds drooped slightly. "These are records from over 100,000 of your years ago. They speak of a race known as the Precursors, a species that bore a striking resemblance to humans and possessed technology that dwarfed anything we have today." Sarah's mind reeled as she tried to process this information. "Are you saying that humans are descended from these precursors?" "It's a possibility that many on the Council have feared since we first detected your radio signals," Zathel admitted. "The precursors vanished abruptly, leaving only fragments of their civilization behind. if humanity is indeed their legacy. The alien left the thought unfinished. As Sarah stared at the ancient images, a chill ran down her spine. The implications were staggering. Humanity's place in the galaxy, and perhaps its very origins, were suddenly cast in an entirely new light. Part 4. The Aftermath. The revelation of humanity's possible connection to the precursors sent shockwaves through Nexus Station. The initial awe and respect garnered by Sarah's victory quickly gave way to fear and suspicion among many alien factions. Emergency meetings of the Nexus Council were called, with heated debates raging over how to handle the human situation. Some argued for immediately severing all ties and expelling the Horizon from the station. Others saw an opportunity to study humanity and potentially unlock the secrets of precursor technology. Sarah and her crew found themselves caught in the middle of a political firestorm they barely understood. Access to many parts of the station was suddenly restricted, and they could feel the weight of constant surveillance wherever they went. "This is a powder keg waiting to blow," Lieutenant Rodriguez muttered as they huddled in their quarters, discussing their options. "Maybe we should cut our losses and head back to Earth while we still can." Sarah shook her head firmly. "We can't. Not now. If we leave, we'll be confirming their worst fears about us. We need to stay and prove that humanity isn't a threat." But proving their peaceful intentions was easier said than done. Tensions on the station continued to escalate, with sporadic outbreaks of violence between pro-human and anti-human factions. The crew of the Horizon worked tirelessly to mediate disputes and showcase the best of human ingenuity and compassion, but it often felt like they were bailing out a sinking ship with a teaspoon. The situation came to a head when a group of hardline isolationists attempted to sabotage the Horizon's engines, hoping to strand the humans on the station indefinitely. Sarah and her crew managed to thwart the attack, but the incident pushed the already strained relations to the breaking point. As Sarah stood in the council chamber, facing the assembled representatives of a dozen alien races, she knew that the next few moments would determine not just her crew's fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. Part 5. The Alliance. Just as it seemed that diplomacy had failed and conflict was inevitable, alarms blared throughout Nexus Station. A massive unidentified vessel had appeared at the edge of the system, its energy readings off the charts. "By the cosmic egg," Zathel gasped, staring at the readings. "It's a harvester ship. They found us." The chamber erupted into panic. Sarah learned that the harvesters were a mysterious and terrifying force that periodically swept through the galaxy, strip-mining entire planets and leaving devastation in their wake. No single species had ever successfully repelled them. As the alien representatives bickered and panicked, Sarah's mind raced. She thought of the precursor images, of the advanced technology they had wielded. And then she thought of her revolver, a simple tool that had proven unexpectedly effective. "We can fight them," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. All eyes turned to her, not with brute force, but with ingenuity. Human history is filled with examples of less advanced civilizations defeating technologically superior foes through creativity and determination. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Drakthor stepped forward, his earlier enmity forgotten in the face of this greater threat. "The human speaks wisdom," he rumbled. "Their unconventional approach may be exactly what we need." What followed was a frenzy of activity as humans and aliens worked side by side, pooling their knowledge and resources. Sarah's crew shared guerrilla tactics and out-of-the-box thinking, while the aliens provided advanced technology and deep space experience. They retrofitted the station's defenses with jury-rigged human innovations, created decoys using old Earth electronic warfare techniques, and devised a plan that played to each species' strengths. As the harvester ship approached, tensions ran high. The combined fleet of Nexus Station, now including the Horizon, moved into position. Sarah stood on the bridge of her ship, the fate of not just humanity, but all the species of Nexus resting on her shoulders. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Human unpredictability and alien technology proved to be a formidable combination. Sarah's unorthodox tactics threw the harvesters off balance, allowing the more advanced alien ships to strike decisive blows. In the end, as the harvester vessel retreated in disarray, cheers echoed through every ship and corridor of Nexus Station. Species that had been at each other's throats just hours before now celebrated together, united in their victory. In the aftermath, as the adrenaline faded and the full impact of what they'd accomplished sank in, Sarah found herself once again standing before the Nexus Council. But this time, the atmosphere was entirely different. Zathel stepped forward, its fronds glowing with an almost ethereal light. "Captain Sarah Chen, you and your crew have proven beyond any doubt the value of humanity's inclusion in our coalition. Your courage, adaptability, and unique perspective may well have saved us all." One by one, the representatives of each alien species stood and voiced their support for formally admitting Earth into the Nexus Coalition. Even Drakthor, his armor still bearing the scars of their duel, nodded in grudging respect. As Sarah accepted the official invitation on behalf of Earth, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. They had come to Nexus Station seeking peaceful exchange and cooperation. What they had found was so much more: a connection to an ancient legacy, new allies, and humanity's first steps into a larger, more complex galaxy. The mystery of the precursors and humanity's possible connection to them remained unsolved, a tantalizing question that would drive exploration and research for years to come. But for now, as Sarah looked out at the sea of alien faces, no longer foreign and intimidating, but familiar and friendly, she knew that the future held infinite possibilities. Humanity had not just found its place among the stars. It had proven that sometimes the most primitive tools, wielded with courage and creativity, could shape the very fabric of galactic civilization. As the Horizon prepared for its journey back to Earth, carrying news of all that had transpired, Sarah knew that this was not an end, but a beginning. The stars beckoned, full of wonders and challenges yet to be discovered, and humanity, with its unique blend of antiquated wisdom and boundless innovation, was ready to face whatever the universe had in store. A new era. 6 months after the events at Nexus Station, the U.S. Horizon approached Earth, its hull bearing the scars of its incredible journey. As the blue marble of humanity's homeworld grew larger in the viewscreen, Captain Sarah Chen felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The ship's communication system crackled to life, and a familiar voice filled the bridge. "U.S. Horizon, this is Earth Control. You are clear for approach, and welcome home, heroes." Sarah smiled, remembering the tense negotiations, the frantic battles, and the unlikely alliances forged in the crucible of crisis. "Thank you, Earth Control. It's good to be back." As the Horizon descended through the atmosphere, Sarah could see the changes already taking place on the planet below. New construction dotted the landscape. Joint human-alien research facilities, diplomatic compounds, and spaceports designed to accommodate vessels from across the galaxy. The ship touched down at the newly christened Global Space Center, where a crowd of thousands had gathered to welcome them home. As Sarah and her crew disembarked, they were met with a thunderous ovation. Among the dignitaries waiting to greet them, Sarah recognized Ambassador Zathel, its fronds shimmering in Earth's sunlight. Beside the willowy alien stood representatives from a dozen different species, all members of the Nexus Coalition's New Earth delegation. Sarah stepped forward to shake hands with the UN Secretary-General, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. "Captain Chen," the Secretary-General said, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "On behalf of all humanity, thank you. Your actions have opened up a new chapter in human history." As cameras flashed and reporters clamored for statements, Sarah took a moment to look back at her ship and crew. They had set out seeking peaceful exchange and returned with so much more: new technologies, new allies, and a new understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. The questions surrounding the precursors and humanity's possible connection to them remained, promising years of scientific inquiry and exploration. But for now, Earth was taking its first steps as a full member of the galactic community. Later that evening, as celebrations continued around the globe, Sarah found a quiet moment alone. She took out her old revolver, the weapon that had started it all. Its simple, elegant design had proven that sometimes the old ways still had value in a universe of wonders. As she looked up at the stars, no longer distant and unreachable, Sarah smiled. Humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice level but carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. The alien hissed, spittle flying from its maw. "Your kind doesn't belong here, human. Go back to your mud ball before you contaminate our advanced civilization with your barbaric ways." Sarah's hand rested casually on the butt of her revolver, a motion that didn't go unnoticed by the gathered crowd. Whispers rippled through the aliens, some pointing at the antiquated weapon with a mixture of derision and curiosity. "I understand your concerns," Sarah said, loud enough for all to hear. "But we've come in peace, invited by the coalition that governs this station. We respect your ways and ask only for the same courtesy in return." The reptilian alien's nostrils flared, but before it could respond, Zathel glided between them, its fronds a blur of motion. "Enough. Krastik. The humans are our guests, here by right of treaty. You will not threaten them." Krastik's scales rippled with barely contained rage, but it backed down, retreating with its companions while shooting venomous glares at the humans. As the tension slowly dissipated, Sarah noticed that they had drawn quite an audience. Aliens of all descriptions were watching the exchange, their reactions ranging from open hostility to guarded curiosity. Zathel turned to Sarah, its voice low. "I apologize for this incident, Captain. Krastik and his kind are set in their ways. They fear change and the unknown." Sarah nodded, her eyes still scanning the crowd. "No harm done, Administrator. We understand that our presence here will take some getting used to. We're prepared to prove ourselves through our actions." As Zathel led them deeper into the station, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched from every angle. The vastness of Nexus was overwhelming. A city in space with twisting corridors, bustling marketplaces, and technology beyond anything they had seen on Earth. They passed through a series of security checkpoints, each more advanced than the last. Sarah noticed how the alien guards eyed their equipment with a mixture of disdain and amusement, particularly lingering on her revolver. She knew that to many of these beings, humans must seem like children playing with sticks compared to their energy weapons and force fields. Finally, they arrived at what appeared to be a grand meeting hall. The ceiling soared hundreds of feet above them, holographic displays flickering with information in a dozen alien languages. Representatives from various species were gathered in tiered seating, their murmurs dying down as the human delegation entered. "Esteemed members of the Nexus Coalition," Zathel announced, its voice resonating through the chamber. "I present to you Captain Sarah Chen and the crew of the U.S. Horizon, representatives of Earth and the human race." As Sarah stepped forward to address the assembly, she could feel the weight of countless alien eyes upon her. This was the moment that would set the tone for humanity's place among the stars. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and began to speak. "Honored members of the Nexus Coalition," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We come before you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as equals. We may be new to your galactic community, but we bring with us a spirit of innovation, adaptability, and determination that has seen us through countless challenges on our home world." She paused, looking around the chamber, meeting the gaze of as many alien representatives as she could. "We know that some of you may doubt our worthiness to stand among you. You may look at our technology, our weapons, our very bodies, and see them as primitive or inferior. But I ask you to look beyond the surface, to see the potential that lies within humanity." Sarah unholstered her revolver, holding it up for all to see. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. "This weapon may seem archaic to you, a relic of a less advanced age. But it represents something fundamental about humanity, our ability to take the simplest of tools and push them to their limits, to find elegant solutions to complex problems. She reholstered the gun with a fluid motion. We don't claim to have all the answers or to be superior in any way. We come here to learn, to grow, and to contribute. All we ask is for the opportunity to prove ourselves, to show you what humanity is truly capable of. As Sarah finished her speech, the chamber fell silent. For a long moment, no one moved or spoke. Then, from the back of the hall, a deep, rumbling voice called out, "Pretty words, human. But words mean nothing out here in the void. If you want to prove yourselves, you'll need to do it with actions, not speeches." Sarah turned to see a massive, armor-clad being pushing its way through the crowd. Its face was hidden behind a featureless mask, but its body language radiated challenge and contempt.